You're watching the North Carolina Players Show on Fan Media Network. Any road trips as a player at North Carolina where you went to a nice place and a player missed curfew or got in trouble, and you don't have to name names if you don't want to, but let's say you played down in Miami, you played in Hawaii while you're at the University of North Carolina. We'll get to the NBA later. Any stories? And if you don't, that's fine.
I'm sure we had a rambunctious group of guys my senior year. And I remember going to Hawaii, and we had 2 days. We had 2 days of vacation. We had 2 days off before we got there, kind of probably 3 or 4 days before the trip. 2 days of practice, and then everyone. This is crazy. Now you know how Coach Guffridge is, right? He's the disciplinary guy. Coach Guffridge's family came on the trip, and we had 2 days. And of course, I'm the senior statesman on the group, and everyone betted me that I wouldn't ask Coach Guffridge if his daughter can hang out with us on the beach.
Megan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Megan was a little girl when I was playing.
Yeah, she was. She might have been a junior or senior in high school, and of course, she wants to get out. She doesn't want to. And I'm sure Coach Guffridge ain't gonna let her roam around in Hawaii by herself. So,
right.
The guys encouraged me to go ask. Coach Guffridge was like, "Yes, my daughter can go with you guys to the beach. You guys are responsible. Make sure she gets back safely." And that was the most, as the guys on the back of the bus, as me going up and asking, can she hang out with us? They got a kick out of it. But for me, it was the most stressful trip. And then once we got her to go with us to the beach, everyone was under a lot of stress. We couldn't even enjoy the trip because everybody had to make sure we knew where she was.
Right. Yeah, and anything that you did wrong might be report back to coach. So
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That idea might have backfired.
Yes.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. I'm trying to think. We went to Alaska. I went to Alaska as a freshman for the Great Alaskan Shootout. Went to Hawaii. Went to Greece. We had some good trips, and I don't know if anybody broke curfew, but we might have broke. We had a good time.
Yeah,
we had a good time. We had good guys. I think that's the thing that I missed the most about. And there are guys like when I was a senior, Joe Wolf and Kenny Smith and Dave Popson were freshmen. And like sometimes I wish I would have been able to play with some of those guys for 4 years instead of just one.
Right.
And then when I was a freshman, Al Wood and Pete Budko, Mike Pemper, Eric Kenny were seniors. And, those are great guys. And when I go back to reunions, you now have a breadth of guys that basically expand, when you look at it for, just, like 8+ years.
Yes.
On either side that you feel a certain connection to. And that's the neat thing about North Carolina basketball. Next segment, NBA. What were the rules when you played in the NBA, when you went on the road, and what were the most concerning cities for a coach to travel to? And I've always heard this when I worked in the NBA. The two cities that were most concerning for coaches were Miami and Toronto.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, and I would even throw Phoenix in there.
Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix. Scottsdale was a lot of people don't think about it, but it's only like 30 minutes from Phoenix.
Right.
And sometimes we stayed in Scottsdale and then commuted into Phoenix for games. So it was a lot easier for us to go to downtown Scottsdale, Old Town, whatever they call it. But there was a lot of things happening in Phoenix, Toronto, and of course, you know, my later years I played with Allen Iverson.
Yeah, I know.
And there was no curfew for him, which was amazing because some guys could stay up all night, and he was one of those guys that probably needed 3 hours of sleep before the game and could play 40 minutes. I was one of those guys that I needed to get at least 6.
Right.
Or I wasn't going to be any good. So, you know, I was always in by 2 o'clock at the latest if I went out. And then we would have a 10 o'clock shoot around or 9 o'clock breakfast. So, you know, it was interesting to see how a guy like Allen Iverson could probably come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and still give you 35 points.
Right. Now, did he make the 9 o'clock breakfast?
No, he didn't make the 9 o'clock breakfast too many times. He was on the bus for shoot around.
Was it optional, the breakfast, the 9 o'clock breakfast?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah, it was optional. It was optional.
So the shoot around wasn't optional?
No, the shoot around wasn't optional.
Okay. So, but he made the 10 o'clock, he made the 10 o'clock shoot around.
Yeah, he made it to the bus. He might have been still sleeping until we got off at the arena, but he was there.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Do you ever hear the story of Wilt Chamberlain when he played for the Lakers and Bill Sharman was his coach, and Bill Sharman was the first one to put in shoot-arounds, walkthroughs, and they were leaving for a shoot-around, and Wilt Chamberlain wasn't on the bus, so Bill Sharman sent one of his assistants up to get Wilt, and Wilt answered the door and said, "Well, I'm only going to the gym one time today. Now, coach could have me for shoot around, or he could have me for the game."
Hey, I'll take that 50 and 25 for the game anytime.
Right. Yeah. So I think shoot around was optional when Wilt was playing.
You know, Coach. It's a few guys in the league, well, at least in the league when I was playing, that could give you 35, 40 points on any given night. And there were guys like myself who, you know, and other guys that was on that Sixer team. We had to have a shoot around because we had to prepare and understand what the team was going to try and take away, how we were going to play defensively. But Allen was one of those guys that you could put him on any team and he was going to find a way to get 30, 25 a night. The problem he had was, you know, you had to have the right team around him. And Coach Brown did a hell of a job building that team to go with Allen Iverson so that Allen could be himself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge for a lot of coaches when you get that one superstar, you know, especially in the NBA, when you get that one superstar, you try to fit a team around them. And I think that's what the Houston Rockets are going through with James Harden, finding the right pieces to play with Harden. I don't think Harden can play on any team because of chemistry-wise, but you have to be that special GM and that special head coach to build a system around James Harden.
Yeah, and then the risk of doing that, and some of it you've seen show its ugly head, is now the player has all the leverage.
Yeah.
And you see that with Harden. Now he's saying, I want to trade. Well, they built a team around him, and now he wants to trade. You know, or if the player gets hurt. You know, you had a bunch of offensive rebounders, you know, defenders in Philadelphia. And so if Allen got hurt, you know, then who scores the ball?
Right.
Who takes
he accounted for almost 50 points because if he wasn't scoring his 30, he was assisting and making the game easy for the rest of us to get the other, you know, what was it, 90 points a game, 95 when we was with the Sixers.
Who was like your second, third, fourth leading scorer on that team?
I think Aaron McKee was second off the bench, and then everybody else was 9 to 10. Maybe I would get 15 if I got 6 offensive rebounds. It all depended on, what the other guys, how teams were guarding the other guys. But it was Allen Iverson, then it was Aaron McKee, and then it was everybody else.
Who was the starting lineup?
That starting lineup was Allen, Eric Snow. I was the 3. Tyrone Hill was the 4, and Mutombo was the 5.
That's a big team.
Yeah.
You were the 3, huh?
Yeah. Eric Snow was, he kind of played the point, but he was a 6'3" point guard who could guard probably 1 through 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guarded the 3, so now you're guarding.
So I would guard Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady. I had tough nights every night.
That's the most athletic position in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and during that time when I was coming through, I got assignments on Kobe, Tracy McGrady, Paul Pierce, who else? Some of the 3 men throughout the league. Glenn Robinson was in Milwaukee.
Glenn Robinson?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. It was some tough nights.
What was the most, I hate to ask you this now, what was the most points you gave up to a star player?
It was tough to say. Most guys, if they average 20, I was able to keep them under their average. But I can't take credit for all that. We had Mutombo back there, so all I had to do was make them drive. And guys really didn't rely on the 3-point shot back then. So, if I was able to make them drive to the basket, Mutombo was able to alter a lot of shots. And so I had Mutombo. At the start of the year, we had Theo Ratliff. And Theo Ratliff was an unbelievable shot blocker.
I remember Theo.
And we used to get a kick out of forcing guys baseline because Eric was a great defender. AI could play the passing lanes. Aaron McKee came off the bench. He was a good defender. They call it two-way players now, but back then, everybody had to play defense.
Right.
And our team, we started the season 10-0, took lead in the East, and we ran away with the East, probably won the East by 10 to 15 games.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good stuff, man. I love these stories. It's like, again, I say it's like having coffee with George Lynch. Just sitting here talking ball, man.
Yeah.
Great background and great stories, and I appreciate you sharing them.
To host a player show or appear as a player on a player show, simply create a profile on Fan Media's iOS app or website. Select your teams and make a short intro video on your phone. Show hosts, reporters, former players, and superfans can use our Get Verified feature and make an intro video as well, and our mobile newsroom staff will reach out.